Okay, so we're going to compare and order real numbers, and this is the beginner section. So let's see what the first question we have is. Identify the number with the smallest value. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I've got a pen to write with, is I'm going to change every single one of these to a percent. And some of you are going to say, I don't want to change it to a percent. And I'm going to say, I don't care what you want because that's the best way to do it. So 0.632. That's a decimal, so that means I have to multiply it by 100 to get 63.2%. Now the next one, I'm going to go ahead and go to my next line. Why waste time erasing? 16 divided by 25. Okay, and I want to make it a percent, so I'm going to multiply times 100, and that gives me 64%. The next one is already a percent, so 62% is already there. So then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do the last one, which is 6.13 times 10. Raise it to an exponent and put -1. But then I have to remember, I have to multiply anything that is not a percent by 100 to change it to a percent, which gives me 61.3%, and they wanted the smallest, so D is your answer. Do not do any of these questions without first using your calculator. It is very important. These are too easy to miss. All right, which number line correctly represents the irrational numbers listed below? So the first thing I have to do is make sure that I put them in my calculator correctly. The first one is negative square root of 40, which is -6.3. Okay, the next one, I'm going to go ahead and do my negatives first, I think. I'm going to move over here, and I'm going to do negative square root of 95, negative square root of 95, because we cannot forget those negatives. It makes a big mess when we do that. So we've got -9.7, and then we've got another negative square root, which is negative square root of 10. So I'm going to do negative square root of 10. Uh-oh, except that I forgot the square root, so I better try again. Negative square root of 10, which gives me negative 3.16. So I'm going to put 3.2, negative 3.2. So I know I've got at least 3 numbers below the 0. So I'm going to look at my answers first. There's a 0. I've got 3 points there. There's a 0. There's nothing below that. So I'm going to get rid of that. Here's a 0. I've got 3 points below that. And here's a 0. I've got 3 points below that. So now let me look. Negative 9.7. Well, that looks like a negative 9.7. And that looks like a negative 9.7, but that does not. So that means D is out. So I'm down to 2. Next, I'm going to look at negative 6.3. Well, that's not a negative 6.3 there, but this one is. So guess what? I'm down to 1, but I'm going to keep checking. I've got negative 3.2, which is right there. So I'm not even going to check the other 2. And I know that C is my answer. Now, if I was taking an SOL, you better believe I'd check those, but I know I'm right, so I'm going to move on. Which of the following rational numbers has the largest value? So, what are we going to do first? Change it to a percentage, Mrs. Voss. That is right, because that's what we need to do. We've got our calculator here. This should not be a problem at all. So we've got negative 5. And we're going to raise that to the 4th power, but then I want it to be a percent. So I'm going to multiply by 100, and I'm going to go on to my next line. Then I'm going to take negative 5, and this time I am raising it to a negative 4 power. Uh-oh, except that didn't work. So let me try again. I am raising it to a negative 4 power. Again, I wanted a percent. So I'm going to have to multiply by 100, and I get that percentage, which is very different. Look at that. Then this time I'm going to type in my parentheses. I got my negative 5 inside of the parentheses, and I have to raise it to a -4, and R, you can't leave till I'm through because then it'll mess up the video, times 100 makes that a percent. And then I'm going to do the very last one, which is parentheses, -5, another parentheses raised to the 4th power this time. And I have to remember, multiply it by 100 to make it a percentage. All right, which one of those has the largest value? Of course, it is 62,500. So that is the largest value. Okay? So we've got one more. Put the following rational numbers in order from greatest to least. So let's go ahead and put all of these in the calculator. Again, if they have a percent, you just leave it. But if they don't, you have to make it a percent. All right, so times 10, and we're going to raise that to a -3. Going to make it a percent by multiplying by 100. Okay, and then I'm going to go to the next one, which is 0.4. And I have to multiply that by 100 to make it a percent. And then we've got 1 divided by 4, and I have to multiply that by 100 to make it a percent. And then I'm going to look at it and decide which one is the biggest number. 4%, 0.4%, 40%, or 25%. Well, of course, it's 40%. So that goes first. Okay, so we've used that one. After 40%, the next largest is 25%, which is the 1/4. And we've used that. The next largest would be 4%. And then finally 0.4%, which is 4.0 times 10 to the -3. So if you look at how easy it is, once you use your calculator, you are in great shape. Next video will be intermediate. See y'all there.